Richard YouTube channel. In today's class, we're going to be learning how to make this beautiful large keyhole side bow with these net frills. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. To make this bubu, I already have my fabric folded into 4. Okay, I have 2 for the front and 2 for the back, and this is my fold point. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to decide on the neckline that I want to work with. Okay, so this is not going to have a zipper, so I will make sure that my neckline is wide enough for my head to pass through it at least. So you can use whatever neckline you want, and you can decide to add a zipper to yours if you want. So the neck depth that neck width that I'm going to work with is going to be around 4 inches, and then my neck depth is going to be around 4 to 5 inches as well for both front and back. So after marking it like that, I'm going to connect my neckline as shown. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do now is to measure my shoulder. The shoulder is 8 inches, that's 16 divided by 2, and it stops there. So this is a kimono. It means the sleeve is going to be cut together with the main bodice. So for the sleeve, I want my sleeve then to be around 11 inches. It's still going to have a neck, so 10 to 11 inches is fine for me because I don't want it too long. So if I'm working with 10 inches, it's going to stop here. So altogether I'll have about 18 inches, okay, including my shoulder. So you can see, so on that point I'm going to go down by 2 inches for my shoulder slope. Then after getting the shoulder slope, I'm going to take my ruler and then connect like this to my neck point for my shoulder slope. So if you don't want to have a seam on your shoulder, it seems you're not going to have a shoulder slope, you're just going to leave it as it is. You can see that it's folded on the upper part as well. So now the next thing now is to create is to measure my waist. The waist is 16 inches, so I have 16 inches here. My hip line is 26 inches, so I have 26 inches here, and then my full length is about 58 inches. So I have my 58 inches here, and then I added 2 inches allowance to it to make it 60 inches. So that is all I have. So now this is not going to be really shaped like that because it's a bubu and it have a keyhole around this area. So what I'm going to do now is to measure my armhole area, because my keyhole is going to start around the armhole area. It's going to go through to the waist and then stop maybe on the hip line or just a little above the hip line. So my armhole is 9 inches. I'm going to add 1 inch to that, okay, or 1.5 for ease, and that's going to leave me with around 10. So I can just make it 11 inches, okay, because I don't want it to be too tight around that area. So for me to have my accurate bust measurements on that point, I'm going to take my bust measurement as well. So my bust is 44, divided by 4 is 11. I'm going to add 1 or 2 inches to that so that I can be really free. I'll still control that with a belt. So that's going to leave me with 13 inches if I'm adding 2 inches. So this is where my 13 inches is. On my waistline, my waist is 38 inches, divided by 4 is 9.5. So there again I can also add about 2 inches to that. So adding 2 inches to that is going to give me around 11.5 inches. You can make it 12 inches as well for ease, okay. So I have that there as well. And then my hip is 46 divided by 4 is 11.5. so there again, if you're adding up 2 inches to it, that's going to give you 13.5. so I have 13.5 inches there. So these are my measurements, okay. So now I want to decide where the flap, I don't know what the extension that we have after our main bodies. So you need to decide where you want yours to stop. It can be on your knee area, it can be above your knee. So my knee area is around 38 inches, so I don't want it that long, so I'm just going to leave it a little above my knee. So let's say 33 to 35 inches, somewhere there. So if I'm working with 34 inches, I'm just going to mark the 34 inches there. I hope you can see this. So now marking 34 inches, it can be anywhere you want. I just don't want mine to be too low. Okay, so 34 or 35 inches is fine for me. So let me just do 35. So now 35 inches is here, and then I'm going to make that into a straight line. So on that 35 inches, I'm going to mark my hip area as well, and then I have about 13 inches thereabouts. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is to connect my sleeve. Okay, so now I'm going to connect from this my shoulder slant. So for it to be obvious, remember I just used around 10 inches for my sleeve, so I'm just going to extend it a little bit so that we can see the curve very well. Okay, so if I'm not okay with it, I can still reduce it. So what I'm going to do now is to connect like this, like I'm connecting for a boo-boo, just in a curved shape like this, to meet the 35 inches that I measure. So when you get to this point, you're not going to make it sharp, you just connect it in a way that is going to blend it up like this. So you can see, I hope this chalk is visible enough, you can see how I just shaped it like this. Okay, so I'm going to still add a net on that part. So now what you just need to do now is to take this measurement all the way down. So here I have 13.5 inches, so I'm going to measure the same 13.5 inches on the hem. Okay, so if you feel you're not going to work comfortably in this, you can have a slit at the back if you added zipper allowance to yours, or you can just leave a slit at the side, or you just make it a form of an A-line. But I want mine to be straight, so I'm just going to open it on one side so that I can work freely in it. So that's the shape that I have for now. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to create my keyhole. So now you can see where my waistline stops, and this is what I want for my hip as well. So I want my keyhole to start from this part. That's where my chest line, remember I measured around 11 inches for my armhole. My actual armhole was 9, so I added 2 inches extra to it. You can work with exactly 9 inches, but just remember that we are still going to sew this round. So by the time I sew it round, I'm still going to take like half an inch or quarter of an inch, whichever one you sew with. So I don't want it to be too tight, I want my hand to be free. So that's why I'm leaving it at this point. And then I want the keyhole to stop just like 1 or 2 inches away from my hip line. I don't want to stop exactly on my hip line. So from my hip line here, I'm going to come up by around 2 inches or even 2.5 inches. It's going to be a big keyhole. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is to create that keyhole that I want there. So depending on how wide you want the keyhole to be, remember the widest part is going to be your waist, and this is my waistline. So I want it to be around 3 inches wide. So by the time I sew it round, it's still going to open up more. So I've measured the 3 inches here. So this is just going to be a guide. In order for me to create my round shape, I'm going to divide these 3 inches. Remember, it's between this space, so I'm going to divide it by 2, and that's going to give me 1.5. So this is 1.5 inches here. So what I'm going to do now is to connect from here to here. Okay, from my bust. Okay, I'm going to connect to the waist, and then from the waist I'm going to connect to where I want it to stop on the lower part, which is just 2.5 inches above my waist. So here again I'm going to do the same thing, and then you can see the circle that I have there. So if this is too big for you, you can reduce it, but this is the keyhole that I'm going to cut out. So if you think this is too big, you can reduce this. If you think it's too small, you can extend it. So the major determinant here is that I don't want it too close to the hem. Remember, my sleeve is not so long. Assuming your sleeve is long and getting to this point, you will still have all of this place to include, but mine is not too long, so I don't want it too big. I don't want it too close to the edge. So now I'm going to cut this out. Okay, so I'm just cutting around the chop that I have. So I'm not cutting exactly on the chop, I'm leaving like half an inch again, because I just want to be sure that I have enough. So you can see how I'm cutting around the curve like this. Okay, so after cutting that part, now I'm going to cut out so you can see the shape that we have there. I hope you can see the shape that we have there. So now I'm going to cut the neckline as well, and then I'm going to cut out my shoulder slope. So like I said, if you don't want to join on this shoulder, you don't need to cut this part off. So this is what I have now. The next thing now is to cut my keyhole. So to cut the keyhole, you just need to, you can see how it is now, you just need to push it up a bit and then just make a little cut around there. So once you make this cut, it's going to help you to cut around your chopped area. So here I'm just going to cut around it. Okay, so this is what I have. So you can see my bodice and then my keyhole. So what I'm going to do first now is to open up my seams. Okay, when you open up your seam, this is what it looks like. Okay, let me place it like this so you can see the two keyhole that we have there. So I'm going to join it on the shoulder. Okay, so after joining it on the shoulder, the next thing now is to sew in our keyhole. So to sew it, you want to sew it in a way that your seam is going to be tucked inwards. Okay, so I have just held my shoulder together with pins. I want to show us everything so that I can sew them all at once. So I have held the shoulder with pins now. So now I'm going to turn it to the right side so that I can show us how to sew the keyhole part. So now turning it to the right side, you can see that my shoulder is held because of the pins I used to hold it together. So now we focus on the keyhole part. So now this is the right side of our fabric, and then you place your keyhole matching each other like this. Okay, so what we want to achieve by the time we're done is a clean finish in such a way that by the time we finish, by the time you sew it together, this part is going to be this clean. You're not going to see any rough edge on this part. So to do this, this is what we want to achieve. You can see me folding it in half an inch here. So what I'm going to do now is to lift this up and then hold this from within. So you can see me holding it. So by the time I hold this from within, you can see the way I've held it. So you have your right side here and right side here facing each other, and then you match them together and then pin. Okay, so I'm just going to show us a little of this so that the video will not be too long. So I'm going to pin it round, and this is how you're going to pin all of them round. So you take it in bits, you can sew and then check what you're sewing. So now I'm matching it together and making sure that what I'm doing is correct. So now I'll pin it and then go to another side and pin again. So that is how I'm going to keep pinning it. So you pin right side facing right side, so that by the time you sew it, all the rough edges will be facing inwards, not going to be outwards. So the one we have pinned so far, if you check now, you can see, okay, you can see that it is inwards. This is the right side of my fabric. You can see now that it is sewn inwards and it is clean on this side. So that's the same thing you're going to do. You just flip it again and then pin the rest of them. You pin it right side. Remember, this is the right side of the fabric facing each other, and then you pin all round. So after pinning it all round like that, you're going to pin all round and then take it to the sewing machine and sew. So by the time you pin this as well, you can see now that it is also neat on this side. So I'll go and sew it now and bring it back to show us what we have. So I have sewn it on the shoulder, as you can see, on both shoulders, and then just like I explained, I have turned my keyhole area so you can see how neat it is. So now all the seams now is on the other side, so you just need to notch it round so that it can relax well, and then you iron it neatly. So you can see the keyhole that we have now. This is the first one and this is the second one. So like I said, I'm going to be pleating some net around it. So I have this chantilly net, and then I'm going to cut out 6 inches in length. Okay, I'm going to cut many because this is just 3 yards, and then I'm going to join it together and then pleat it round this flare. So now this dress, so now I have cut it, as you can see, and then I've gone ahead to pleat it. I hemmed it and then I pleated it all around. So now I'm going to sew this. So you can see where I broke my curve. That's where I'm going to stop my sewing. So now, okay, so remember the curve we created, it was coming from here and then it stops around here. Okay, that 35 inches here, that's where I'm going to stop the pleating as well. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pleat from, you can start from anywhere. So I think I'm just going to start from my shoulder area here so that I can stop it as well. So you can see the way I'm sewing it. I'm sewing it like this so that by the time I finish sewing it and then I flip it, it's going to be neat. So here now I'm going to start sewing all the way from here, then I'll take it down following the shape that I have. So now when I'm taking it down, once I get to that 35 inches, which is here, okay, this 35 inches that I marked here, I'm going to turn and then continue straight like this, just like we see on the thumbnail. I'm going to sew around it. So now where I stopped my curve, you can stop there, okay, you can just extend it a little if that is what you want. So you can see I have turned this, then I'm going to sew it like this so that by the time I finish sewing and then I flip it, this is what it's going to look like. So now I'm going to sew it. I'm just going to show us the line. I'm going to sew from here now all the way, and then when I get here, I'm going to continue straight to the other side, the other 35 inches. Then I'm going to sew around the other side as well, and then I'm going to turn it to the back. So I'm just sewing it all around. By the time I sew it round, you're going to see it better. Okay, so I have sewn it round. As you can see, it starts from the shoulder area and then it just goes all the way to that line and then to the other side, and the same thing is done to the back as well. Okay, so by the time we hang it on the mannequin, we'll see it better. And then I hemmed the neckline with a bias, so kindly use a matching color of bias for yours. So after doing that, the next thing to do now is to close it on the side. So closing it on the side, you can actually sew it externally like this, or you sew it internally. So for me, I just decided to sew from where my keyhole stops all the way to where I have my design externally. Then the other one, I just sew it internally. So you can see how I just folded it inwards from where I stopped that arc here. So I did not close it completely so that we can see it well. So you can see where my arc stopped here. So now from there, I just folded it inwards and then I sew it internally. So after sewing it internally, I opened a slit. So you can open 1 or 2 slits depending on what you want. Remember, this is a straight dress and you need to open your legs. So after opening the slit, I just hemmed it on the lower part. So that is all I have done to this. So now I'll take this to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. Okay, so for the waistline, I decided to create a belt. Okay, so you can see the belt is about 2 inches. So I used the ankara and the lace fabric to turn them against each other, so that if you wish to use the lace side for your belt, you can use it, and then if you wish to use ankara as your belt, you can also use it as well. So this is what it looks like on the mannequin. You can see the design that we have there, and this is the keyhole as well. It's not so obvious because the mannequin is not opening the hand very well. So now I'm going to fix the belt and then we'll see the fit as well. So fixing the belt to it will just make it a little more fitted, and it will make this fit any size that you want. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed this, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.